Hey everyone, so the engine's out of the van. So a while ago I was driving to see family in this van and I broke down in Bristol and I got stranded. I had to rent a car and stuff and it was a bit of a nightmare. And the head gasket went on it and it didn't show any signs that it was going, it just went catastrophically and overheated, and yeah, so I got it recovered, got it back home. I put a new head on it because the head was warped, started it up and it pressurised the crankcase and blew all the oil out the rear seal. Actually blew the rear seal out. So yeah, the idea was I was going to go and get a second-hand engine, which I did, just sat there, and just stick that in. And that's the reason why I haven't actually filmed any of this so far. Thought I was just going to take the old engine out, put the new engine back in, or the second-hand new engine back in. No, not as simple as that, because the second-hand engine I bought is actually quite different. It would fit, but I was going to have to swap a load of stuff over, transfer. I was going to have to basically take the head off, take all the timing cover off. I was going to have to transfer loads of bits over because it's a slightly different design. The block's the same, but everything that bolts to it is slightly different to miss the frame and stuff on this van. Even though everything online says they're the same, they're not. The oil filter lands in a different place. There's loads of differences. So yeah, I've decided if I've got to take everything off and swap it over to that other engine, I might as well just do a rebuild on the one I got. So yeah, that's why I thought, well, if I'm going to do all that, I'll start a video now. So the engine's out, it's stripped, it's in bits, and you'll see from me rebuilding it and putting it back in. And we'll keep this old girl running for a bit longer yet. Yeah, so a lot of people will probably be interested actually in, I've put 30,000 miles of vegetable oil through this van, and I've had the engine stripped now and there's absolutely no sign of any vegetable oil in there at all. The rings aren't stuck, everything looks absolutely fine. I don't actually know what's gone wrong with it yet, to be honest with you. I'll show you. Yeah, so the engine's all stripped, all the bits are in the back of the van, and here's the pistons. As you can see, there's nothing really getting past the rings, and the rings aren't gummed up. Everything you read will tell you that running vegetable oil will cause these rings to seize and gum up in there, and they haven't. There's a bit of carbon around the top of the piston in some areas. Generally it looks pretty good to me. I don't think there's many signs of vegetable oil being run in it. Everything's taken apart, got all my little bits and pieces lined up, taken apart. I've just got to start cleaning everything, keeping track of where all the bolts go, cleaning everything and checking everything. Then I can put it all back together with new bearings, new piston rings, and check the bores and everything. First thing I'm doing, because the rear seal completely blew out, I wanted to make sure that it wasn't like the cranks bent, because when the head gasket went, a lot of water went into one of the cylinders, like very quickly. It just blasted into it, so I was worried that maybe it locked up and bent a rod or bent the crank. So I've just checked this on both ends. I'm just checking now that this isn't bent, and it's really straight actually. Hardly any movement there at all. Well, less than 0.01. Is that right? Yeah, 0.01, not even. So that's good. Just going to give this a little polishing up. Checked it's nice and straight, but and it looks pretty good. I'm just going to make sure there's no high spots and polish it up a little bit. Right, I'm happy with that. It's nice and straight. The bearing surfaces all look fine. Put a bit of WD on it to stop it from rusting. Put it to the side, and then we'll give it a bit of a wipe down before we fit it back. Right, so all I've got to do now that it's stripped, is just a lot of cleaning. So this is the crankshaft bearing block. The crankshaft sits underneath here. Just clean off this old silicone gasket material, get all this old grime off. Right, I found something. It's definitely not the reason for the failure, because this wasn't leaking, but it's not ideal. You see these points here? I've just been going over with a straight edge and a little bit of sandpaper, trying to see if there's any high spots. And everywhere there, those where a fly cutter, it looks like a fly cutter's done it. It looks like a fly cutter's been flattening this off. And there's these high points here. So I'm going to flatten them off, because I got a bit of daylight coming in between these points here, so it's not that flat. I'm sure with the bulk pressure and the sealant and stuff, it'll probably seal up, but I'm going to get it a bit closer. I can actually feel it. So that's something. So we get that sorted out. I'm going to get a bit of advice on this from someone that knows a bit more about what they're doing, because so here is the spot coming up now, just there. So it's quite significant. That's it there. Can you see it? So it's visible after sanding it. You see it's got significant. And then there's another one there. I've been at this for ages now, with a wet and dry and a flat edge, and I've got it nice. So it's nice and flat now. I don't think it had warped. I think that's how it came out of the factory, but I just didn't think it was that great out of the factory. But it's nice and flat now, so now I'll do the other side. It'll take a long time. Hey everyone, so I'm back after a bit of a break after Christmas. I went to go and visit family, and picked up this whatever this virus is that's going around. I haven't been that well. Nothing major, just blocked up like a cold. But I just went yesterday and picked up my engine block, and it's been bored out and rehoned, and to fit oversized pistons. So I'm going to get this engine back together and hopefully get the old van running again. Then get that out of the workshop, and then winter should be coming. Get the weather improving a little bit, and we'll try and get back on the foundation. Right, let's get this engine back together. It says in the manual, oil seals face outwards. There we go, that's easier. There we go. Right. I think that's right now. Sure they're in. Yeah. Right, I had a bit of trouble getting the thrust washers in, but we got it now. So let's get this clamped down. Crank spinning freely. Let's get them packed. Just to save a bit of time buzzing them up. So it's 20 foot-pounds, sorry, 20 newton meters, and then a quarter turn, and then another quarter turn. So that's 1/4. So I'm just getting my pistons all sorted out. So the pistons are fine. These pistons have done 150,000 miles, but they've done 30,000 miles on vegetable oil, and you know they're absolutely fine. Really, I've seen a lot worse pistons than that. I mean, don't get me wrong. I've done a lot on diesel or car engines, but I've done quite a few motorcycle engines, and there's a bit of crap down behind the rings, but the rings weren't stuck, and they're all. I mean, they're fine. So I don't think vegetable oil has such an effect as people think, to be honest with you. Because like I haven't cleaned that at all. That's just the top of the piston as it came out. But the reason I'm changing them is because I've had to go oversized because the bores are a bit worn. So yeah, I'll just get these changed using the same con rods. I was trying to keep the con rod in the same orientation, so lay that down like that. And then that piston same way, so it's like that. That goes straight in there. New pin. There's hardly any play there. Good. There we go. Get the rings on. So this is the oil ring. It's the lowest one. This is what scrapes the oil back down. Got to try and get it under there. There we go. Which one of these is which? So the top ring's bigger than the bottom ring. So that's the second ring. Like that. And then the top ring. It says in the manual that the markings face upwards. Scratch there, that's nothing. I've checked the gaps work out right. Yeah, so then we put the clamp on. Where's the clamp? Right, so that ring goes there, the top one goes there, the second one goes there. That's what the manual says. Put the compressor over it. It's ready to fit. all seems to be working right. Yeah, working lovely that. Not difficult to turn. Morning everyone. So I got a bit carried away last night. I was out in the workshop putting the engine back together till quite late, and didn't film any of it 'cause it's not that light, so I was just out there pottering along. But yeah, got all the bits on the front, oil pump and all that back together, so there's not a huge amount left to do now. But yeah, go out there and carry on today. I've got the sawmill down the bottom here as well, just adding some modifications to it. I've added a little measuring stick to the side and doing a few other bits just to make it easier to use. Oh, weather's horrible though, let's get out of the rain. Yeah, so this is where we're at now. So I've got the timing cover on the front, and the water pump, and the pulley, the power steering pump, and the injection pump. So a few bits to do left yet, but getting there. It's mostly back together. All new gasket sealant, new washers. Yeah, so get this oil cooler on as well now, get everything last bits finalised, and then start getting the head on, I suppose. I've left the head off because it's a nightmare to get in and out with the head on. There's just not enough clearance. The engine has to sit under all this, and it's just a nightmare trying to get it out. So I took it out, took the head off, or is it? I can't remember, but I remember that it's tight, and I know I'm in a battle with it, and it's not that difficult to put the head on after. It is really heavy, this engine. Let's check the clearing. Not quite straight on. A little bit higher just to get the sump over. Right, that's the sump over. There's not the best lighting in here for filming this time of night, but do my best. Alright, we've got to come down a bit. Hey everyone, so it's the next day, and I got the engine in last night. Last clip was of me faffing about with it. I had to take it out a couple of times. The trouble is on a van like this, the engine sits so far back, and all this is just in the way. And you know, with the head on, I don't know how you're supposed to get that in with the head on in one of these. But it was a bit of a battle, but it's in. Like with like the Land Rover, you just lift the engine straight out because it's got a massive bonnet. But in this, it's got to come right forwards. But yeah, a bit of a battle, but we got there. Engine mounts are on. I'm going to put the turbo on, and then I'm going to start putting the head on. Alright, turbo's in. I've fitted everything that I can get to without the head on, you know, just to make it a bit easier. So ready to put the head on now. So new head gasket. This is a 4-notch head gasket. I've checked the piston protrusions, and they're a little bit over spec for 0.6 is the max that they're supposed to be, and because I've done a bit of work flattening stuff, they're now 0.7. So I've gone for a 4-notch head gasket to space it out a little bit. 0.68 is the limit for the standard gasket, but I didn't want to be on the limit really of it. Thought we'd play it safe. There you go, add it on upside down. So it only fits one way, that's handy. Right, I think we're happy. Just one last check, make sure there's nothing falling down in the cylinders. All looks alright. Honestly, this van is a very challenging vehicle to work on. Just torquing the head down in the sequence it says to do in the manual, which is a strange sequence. You got to tighten it down to 100 and then loosen it, and then to 50, and then a quarter turn, which is a strange sequence. It's not even easy to get the rocker cover in there. Let's get that on so we don't drop anything down the engine. I absolutely love this van because for the size that it is and the weight and everything like that, it has so much space in the back. And the reason it's got so much space in the back for its size is because everything is so tight. You know, the Land Rover, for example, is like, well, it's a third, like 33% bonnet. This is about 10% bonnet. But as a result, you just can't get to anything. Everything's a nightmare. It's taken me 2 hours to put the alternator on, because you just cannot get to stuff. Like, you've got to find real special little tools and everything just to try and get to things. It is a nightmare. But like I say, these two vehicles are basically the same length, but this has got twice the space in the back. It's got a nice big area to sit in. Like the Land Rover, you've got no space to sit in. The back's not very big. It's got a huge bonnet, but it's easy to work on. Morning everyone. So I'm a bit tired. I was out here till late last night. Just trying to get the pump primed and everything. They're a bit of a nightmare to get going once you run out of fuel. It started to try and fire. Just done a few tweaks. Put the intercooler and stuff on, airbox on. We'll see if she'll fire up. That's just a pipe rattling. That pipe rattling is no good. Oh, oil, where's that come from? Where does that come from? We've got oil. At least I know I've got good oil pressure. It's because I've had the tensioner off a few times, and as a result, the gasket was knackered. So I've just refitted the tensioner. It's sprung loaded, so after fitting it, you have to rotate the engine a bit to get it to snap out. There we go, that was it. Right, Ready to try again. No leaks! Yes! Got a slight knock, but I think it's just where I've been messing with the fuel. I think that'll clear up, we'll see. It looks like it's going to run. It's got a little misfire and stuff, but unfortunately when it broke down with like probably 90% veg oil in it. I filled the filter up with diesel. But it's got a lot of veg oil in it, and it always takes a little while to warm up on veg, so it's not ideal for a first start. But yeah, it looks like it's going to run. There's a little knock, but I think that might just be where it wants to run in a bit. It's looking good, I'm hopeful. I'm just getting tidied up a bit now. I've always had a problem with trying to keep tidy when I go. I just can't seem to do it. Can't seem to put stuff away. I'm just focused on the thing. I use something and I just chuck it down, and it does my head in. I wish I could be better. I wish I could just like take a tool, put it back. I've tried. It just doesn't occur to me. My brain just doesn't think like that. If I have to snap out of what I'm doing, out of my focus, to put a tool back, I'm lost. I can't get me train of thought back. I have to just be focused on one task, and then I just have to tidy up at the end. It's just how I have to do it. I'm really not too happy about that knock. Hope that stops soon. With diesel engines, the fuel is injected in to the already compressed, so the piston comes up, compresses the air, and the fuel's injected into that compressed air just before it starts coming down again. And when you got a knock like that, it's where the fuel is igniting before it gets to the top, and you get a pre-combustion, and it puts a lot of force down on the con rods and everything, which is really not ideal on a rebuilt engine. So I hope it doesn't do that too much. I think it's right to spray a bit of WD-40 down the intake, just to try and get the fuel bled through. And obviously if there's a bit of fuel down the air intake, when the piston comes down and air gets pulled in, if there's a bit of fuel in that air, on its way up as it builds compression, that fuel will ignite under compression before it gets to the top, and then you're going to get a knock. So yeah, so I hope that goes away. It's not ideal, but we'll see. We'll see. Everyone, I'm still persisting on it. I went for a bit of a test drive, but it's smoky and it's knocking pretty bad, and I think I found the problem. I had the pump seal changed by a professional, the fuel pump seal changed by a professional. It's just down there, you won't be able to see it. The mechanic has put the pump in with one tooth out, so it's slightly out of time. It obviously wasn't running right. Instead of taking the whole pump off, what they've done is they've advanced the timing to make up for that tooth. So the timing advance was completely out. So I've changed that now, so I'm hoping that that's going to get us there, but it was a nightmare to get at to do it. But it's done now, so put it all back together and see if that helped. Right, that didn't work, unfortunately. Wait, what was that? What was that? What just sparked there? Yeah, that didn't do anything. That didn't work. It was out, but obviously it wasn't out enough to cause the problem we're having. So I've isolated it now. See, the knock is coming from this cylinder. It's the second cylinder from the front. If I undo this injector banjo while it's running and knocking, it stops knocking. Obviously it sprays diesel everywhere, that's why there's diesel everywhere, but it stops knocking when I undo that, so it's that one. So I'm wondering if when it got really hot from overheating, did it burn a load of vegetable oil, you know, cook the injector and just burn a load of vegetable oil into it. So I'm going to take the injectors out, clean them, put them back together, see how we go. Right, cleaned out the injector. There was a fault with it. Let's see how this goes now. Come on. Come on. That was it! Haha! No more knocking! Perfect! It's pretty late now. Cold, damp, workshop, messy, oily. I've been spannering and grease monkeying now for ages. About a week solid. And so I put this back together tomorrow. That's going to work. Just needs running in, the oil change. Man, that is a good feeling. Rebuilt diesel engine, first time ever. I was getting a bit worried there. It's just that injector. Actually, let me show you what it was. It's my own fault. So yeah, this is the issue. When I swapped the heads over, I had to swap the injectors. One of them came apart. It must have been this one. And for some reason, it's got a piece missing. So this is where the issue was. So that's that piece. And then there's the disc, which is that. And then there's the spring, which is that. And then that piece is missing. That little stub piece there's missing. And then it's that, with that bit missing. And then it's this needle valve. And this needle valve on all the other ones just pops out. You just pull it out, no problem. You just pull on that and it comes out. I've had a pair of pliers on that, it won't come out. It's completely seized in there. So there's two faults with that. So yeah, that's oh yeah, that would go there. So yeah, it had a missing piece and the needle was seized up. So that injector's had it. That's why it was knocking, because it must have been getting a bit of fuel in there from somewhere and igniting on the upstroke, causing a knock. And yeah, that was the issue. So yeah, running now, sorted. Hey everyone, it's the next day and van started straight up, so I'm well pleased with that. So yeah, this is pretty much good. I just got to put the bumper on. I think it's ready to use. I'm just checking for drips and oil leaks and stuff, but I'm pretty confident and I'm just well pleased, got it up and running. It's a really useful vehicle and I really like it, so glad I spent the time bringing it back to life a bit. Yeah, I know most people don't watch this channel for fixing cars. It's just something I'm doing a lot of at the moment. The weather's miserable. I'd like to be out on the barn foundation, but it's just not good. The weather is just terrible. It's just windy, rainy, it's just muddy, sliding around. So I'm just waiting for some better weather. So I thought I'd do this in the meantime, have a bit of time off for Christmas. But yeah, we'll be back to starting. I'm going to do some milling. As soon as the weather clears up, I'm going to be milling. And if we get a dry period, I'll be back on actually working on the foundation. But yeah, I'll finish this. We'll drive it out. That'll be the end of the video. Glow plug. leak. Ah, I'm leaking again. Right, I didn't put the fuel return back on from the injectors. Right, be alright this time. Crap. I think the turbo's on its way out as well. So brilliant, that'll give me another thing to do. We'll see, it might just be where I've taken it off, it needs to bed in a bit or something, I don't know, but that's no big deal anyway. It's out the workshop and it seems to be running pretty good. Oh look, she decided to conk out on me just as I said it. It's just because it's on veg oil. It's struggling. Right, let's run. I'll take you up. I've got to go and take some straw to the sheep. Yeah, it's just because we're on veg oil and it hasn't warmed up. Should get some diesel in it really for running in an engine. That turbo don't sound too good either. Might sort itself out, we'll see. But no big deal. I can get a new turbo. Yeah, it's the weather. It's just constant rain and wind at the minute. I'm just going up the top. Normally I'd walk, but seeing as we're trying to test out the van, we'll drive up the track and go and give the sheep a bit of, not straw, a bit of hay. Boots rattling around, got tools in here. Plenty of power, it's won't take it too high RPM, but picks up lovely. Come on in. Come on in. There you go, you lot. Sorry about the wind. But yeah, anyway, that's the old farm van back on the road. It's all insured, taxed and everything, so she's good to go. Well pleased. Alright, that's going to be the end of this video. Hope you enjoyed it and thanks for watching.